So it's been a real long time since I've made anything on this website. I stopped a while ago, but it just with Stan Lee's recent passing, and excuse my voice, I'm a little under the weather, but with Stan Lee's recent passing, I mean, I really do feel that although everyone is going to be shedding light on this, there's several things that people should really know before I guess some of the tabloids start making their own publicity attempts to try and get views and things like that. But anyway, the disregarding any issues or controversy that have come up in the past, or even more recently with Stan Lee, I mean, this this is a human life, and above all else, it's something to be respected and loved. And not only that, the thing he contributed to this society, his legacy, what everyone is going to remember, what I'm going to remember, especially as a young kid, I remember is the joy, the happiness, and the adventure and fantasy that he expressed to us through his comics, with him and Jack Kirby and all the other pioneers of the comic book age, especially Stan Lee. With because of what he had done, without Stan Lee, we wouldn't have any comic books. Probably would have never taken off. If you take one piece out of the equation, and a very big piece was Stan Lee, you take him out of the equation, things like superhero movies probably would never have become big, especially live action. Things just like the regular comic books would have flopped because sales were doing pretty badly in the early ages of the comic book era, the golden era. And unfortunately, just thanks to him, he really saved all this. He enabled us to have a future where we're able to express ourselves through something like comics. Like now, thanks to him, actually, whether you realize it or not, a lot of inspirations for some of the biggest, even manga and therefore anime, is actually derived from the original Western comics that had started out in the 40s. Things like even Dragon Ball Z, I know, actually took a very big inspiration, although it wasn't directly from Marvel. Comic books in general from here, things like from Superman and other superhero comics, that type of idea was translated over into a kind of action comedy, which also took, deep roots within the stories of traditional Eastern stories like Journey to the West and things like that. And it was kind of that amalgamation of both the Western comics and storytelling that was given through these comic books and cartoons and things like that, that Stan Lee helped to inspire and help take off in the early ages of comics, that had a domino effect, a snowball effect, where other people were able to incorporate their own stories and older stories and mythologies into what we now have as a very beautiful and aspiring culture and society, where we're able to express ourselves in these types of ways, where comics are just an everyday thing now. You don't have to go and write, a 50-page, 100-chapter comic just to go and, make something great. You can just, the simplest little comics you now see nowadays derive from original concept that was created by these people. Comedies, action, adventure, fantasy, all of this. And like I said, this is just, I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I'm probably going to make a dedicated video to this sometime soon, because Stan Lee is definitely a man that deserves this. But honestly though, what he gave to this world it's invaluable. What he started in this world is something that so many of us carry on, whether you realize it or not. But anyone who even watches this video, which I imagine is not going to be much, but anyone who does already has an aspiring affinity for his not specifically his characters, but that type of culture and storytelling. Excuse me, my dogs are barking, but no, what I was saying is just that what he's given to all of us, that seed that he's planted here, that's already started to grow, it's nowhere near the end. What we are now imagining and doing with things like movie and story and cinematography and just storytelling in general, thanks to what he started and all his team, even Jack Kirby, which regarding all that stuff, disregarding all that stuff, he's human. In the end, he's human. And in this life, you don't, sure, you could just pull your own weight, and you don't have to contribute anything to the progression or furthering of our society, whether it's through actual technological advancement, whether it's just through regular storytelling to go and, you know be able to express yourself and share both emotional, connections with others, or just, just ideas, whether it's some sort of other art form or anything of the sort. Because I mean, in essence, this is really what it is. It's an art form. What he's managed to do and what he started here, and we're nowhere near the peak of what this can be, of what all of this is going to climax to, especially with, the upcoming movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Infinity War. Man, that was that was something else. I could make an entire rant on about how great this Infinity War was. That was hands down my favorite movie of all time, and I don't know if y'all agree with me. It's a superhero movie, but man, that's just to think, like, it all started with just a couple of comics back in the 40s. Like, to think that it matured into something this great and prosperous, it just tells you how far this has come and how much further it could still go. It's become a main cultural staple now of our society, at least here in the West, to go and embrace things like this, where superhero movies aren't something that's, for nerds or for geeks, or for someone, who goes and chills in like their mom's basement or nothing. Even though the negative preconceptions or pre perceptions of people like that were, it was kind of standard back in the 80s and 90s, but even earlier than that. But now it's just something that everyone can enjoy, young and old. Whether you're into comics or not, you'll go and you'll turn out to a movie like Infinity War, or Iron Man's stopped making movies, but you know what I mean though. Movies like that, Ant-Man, the Wasp, and all that stuff. It's something that can also bring together families. Something that has a little bit for everybody. You could go. I remember me and my wife. Well, back then we weren't married, but I remember something. One of the things we used to always do is anytime a Marvel movie came out, we used to love talking about it. We used to love watching them, and it brought us closer together. It was something we could talk about. Something that would give us ideas for storytelling, things we wanted to do. She's a great artist, and I love just telling stories, and it's something that we both are able to go and share in. And even though it's a small piece of our relationship, it's still there. Something that Stan Lee inspired and helped so greatly, that he was a huge stepping stone towards this achievement, has touched everyone in some way, in one way or another. And this is just something that you it's just something that's very sad, man. I heard it, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just I want to say it's a tragedy, but I mean, he lived a full life, 95. I mean, 95 years old. I pray I get to live that old. I pray I have a life as full as he did, to be able to experience all these things and to be able to be recognized for so many achievements. And I mean, sure, I saw a couple videos already surfacing of people talking about, some of the controversies in his life. And I mean, he's human, man. Everyone, me, everyone I've ever met, everyone y'all have ever met, everyone listening to this, everyone is human. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is without sin. We all make mistakes. We all get on people's bad sides. We all have a bad side, but in the end, what Stan Lee has done is far beyond anything that you can ever try and use to tarnish anything like this. So you got to recognize and appreciate what he's achieved. Like I said earlier, in this life, you don't have to contribute anything aside from to yourself. But he furthered what we are experiencing, what we're able to experience, and how we're able to express ourselves now, and what's the norm. Not too long ago, people were much more closed-minded about anything regarding comics. It was seen as something more of like a niche group of people, and it wasn't something that everyone can enjoy. And now look at the society we live in, at least here in the West. I mean, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And the only thing I really have to say about, as far as for any hardships that may have come in his life, or, I guess controversy, people love throwing that word around, to buzzword, that may have come up, is that if you actually look, really, really far into, the essence of all this, I gotta say that something really sad is, for the last few years of his life, the fact that Stan Lee didn't really have a safe place to go, the mistreatment and abuse that had gone on by one of his caretakers that was hired and that was misusing their authority. Extremely close fans that were going and trying to get in on Stanley's fortune. Stanley's own daughter, them having that very rocky relationship, and her, I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but honestly, her just more or less acting like what he's given her, which is, not only his legacy, but the fact that he's provided for her, and she's a full grown, she's an elderly woman, full grown, and she still wants to. She's always been, more about material and money, and it's sad that towards the end of his life he had to go and deal with so many people gunning for his money. And not to say he wasn't a happy person. That's something that he definitely always expressed his joy in. And no matter, see, man, it's so sad, man. I wish, I know I'm ranting on now, just myself, but I really wish that I could have met him in person. Me and my wife always talked about going to, different, different, Comic Cons or something to try and, meet him. When one time actually, I think twice I sent him a letter. And of course I never heard back, but it's probably because whoever manages it, probably got it disregarded. But it's just, I really wish I could have met him and just professed my appreciation for him, because this man deserves better. He really does, and he did, and he still does. The respect that this man is due is something we should appreciate and recognize and give. He was a great man that contributed far more than what can even be described. His name is gonna go down in the history books, as I'm sure you all will know. But this is a name. There was never gonna be anyone like Stanley again, at least in this aspect. And he's a great man. He's a very great man. I always love watching videos of him, him meeting with fans and that. And not once did I ever, even during the abuse allegations, or not even allegations, but the proven elderly abuse that was going on, sadly for him, through his caretaker, he never went and came to somewhere angry or putting on a frown or anything like that. He always brought out the best in people, smiling. It's like his genuine mission was just to spread joy. And if only everyone in this life had that same mentality that he did, had that care and compassion that he did. He really did put others before him when it came to comfort and spreading joy, not only through his comics but just in person. He was a very unique and great human being, and whether my voice is heard by one or nobody or 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever, I just hope y'all understand and know that this is and was a very, very great man. And for what it's worth, thank you, Stan. What you've contributed to not only my own personal desires and goals for my future and my wife's future and everyone around me, it means a lot. It really does. I've enjoyed everything you've created, everything that you've helped to make prosper here. You're a very great man. Excelsior.